In the heart of a small town in Griffin, Georgia, the life of a promising young man named Steven Andrew Freeman took a tragic and unexpected turn. His story is one of dreams shattered, resilience tested, and the enduring human spirit. Steven was a beloved member of his community, known for his charisma and unwavering determination. But beneath the surface of his seemingly ordinary life, a profound challenge awaited him. Steven's journey was marked by resilience and the unyielding pursuit of his dreams. As life presented him with hardships and obstacles, he faced them with courage and an unbreakable spirit. The events in Steven's life led to a turning point that would shape his future in unimaginable ways. His story is a testament to the human capacity for strength and transformation. This is the story of Steven Andrew Freeman, a young man who faced adversity head-on and emerged as an inspiration to those around him. Steven Andrew Freeman was born on the 1st of January 1995 and grew up in Griffin, Georgia. He was the son of Troy and Jennifer Freeman. He lived with his parents and brother Blake. He was close to his family and had a happy and healthy childhood. He was always laughing, smiling, and having a good time. His many friends described him as a very laid-back and chill person who never had a problem telling people how much he loved and cared about them. He was helpful and a kind person who loved being indoors. Steven had a good relationship with his parents but was more close to his mother. He loved his mother so much such that when she went back to school to complete her college degree, he wrote her a note saying, "I am so proud of you and admire all the effort that I watched you put forth throughout the past 2 years. It takes an enormous amount of devotion, far from me, to endure the stress and responsibilities that you have taken upon yourself. I look up to you every day because of what you've done for me and Blake throughout our lives and how if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish any of your hopes, dreams, and more. I love you to the moon and back." Jennifer, Steven's mother, treasured this note he wrote to her when she went back to school. Steven also had a girlfriend named Mary whom he loved. Mary Catherine Higdon was born in 1994 and like her boyfriend, she had a good healthy life when growing up and also had a loving family. She was described as an easygoing child who was always running around laughing and even enjoyed performing for her family by putting on these beautiful little plays. She was very friendly and creative and admired nature and animals. She was raised around guns and grew up to love them. Mary and Steven were high school sweethearts, and as soon as they met, they became attached to each other. They had so much in common, but the most important passion they bonded over was their mutual love for the outdoors. They would frequently go hiking, camping, fishing, and even hunting together. After graduating from high school, Mary and Steven moved into their place together in Griffin, Georgia. Steven worked as a metal worker while Mary worked as a part-time teacher's assistant at St. George's Episcopal School in Milner, Georgia. She also worked at a sporting goods store where she sold guns. Mary had a co-worker by the name of Thomas Skinner who was Steven's best friend. They worked at the store for a long time and Thomas explained how all employees needed to learn basic gun safety rules before handling the guns alone. They had to learn how to hold them, load them, and shoot. Mary knew how to handle a gun properly. On the other hand, Steven had a liking for guns and had owned at least 10 of them and kept a Glock 42 in their home. Andrew McKee and Chase Pruitt were also other close friends of Steven. The four were a close group of friends and cared deeply about each other, and they also naturally minded about who each dated as well. When the group first met Mary, they felt a little doubtful about her but loved how much she and Steven had in common and that she was very good at outdoors. They loved how Mary made Stephen happy. Stephen's family loved Mary, and his mother regarded her as a daughter-in-law already. In 2018, Mary and Steven were living together in the same apartment in Griffin. At that time, Mary was 24 years while Steven was 23 years old. During this time, they had dated on and off for 7 years. On the night of August 1st, Mary made a call to 911, which brought a lot of argument about the genuineness of the call. Some people thought that the call sounded very fabricated and planned, while others believed that Mary sounded truly scared and shocked at the same time. However, it didn't matter if it was planned or real. What was important were the words that were recorded coming out of her mouth. "I accidentally just shot my boyfriend." When the detectives showed up at the scene, their body camera recorded the footage of Mary's conduct inside the home. She was very emotional, crying, very scared, and no one could cool her down whatsoever. She was on her knees pleading for someone to help him, and when she was told to move away from the body, she declined to move and kept crying over and over again. "I cannot lose him. I cannot lose him." Once more, this video was extremely debated about, as some people believed that her conduct was fabricated and planned, because they felt like she was highly exaggerating, while others believed that she was displaying genuine, actual feelings. When the detectives showed up at the scene, Steven was still alive and was rushed to the hospital. He was shot directly into his chest, just below his neck. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries and passed away a few minutes before midnight. Immediately, the detectives did not see this as an accident. They were convinced it was murder. When Mary was first interrogated, she told the investigators that she had mistakenly shot Steven. She stated that she was just handing him the gun and it just went off. She also told the investigators that she had no idea there was a bullet in the chamber because they never used to leave their guns loaded inside the house. Nevertheless, after some time, the story changed as she claimed to have tossed the gun to Steven, not handing it to him. At first, the investigators didn't believe her story at all since one of them particularly had a lot of experience with guns, and he already knew that one can't just toss or hand over a gun and have it randomly go off. He knew it was impossible that way. One needed to pull the trigger for it to go off. She also would have had to directly point it at him for the bullet to hit him where it did. The evidence at that crime scene also indicated this had been a murder. The detectives were aware that some kind of disagreement occurred between Mary and Steven before the shooting since there was food thrown everywhere around the house and they also smelled alcohol on Mary's breath, which could also insinuate that there was a fight, and maybe she could have been drinking out of frustration. After the initial interrogation, the detectives got Mary to admit to sit down and talk to them without her lawyer and have the whole thing recorded on tape. As the questioning went on, they began pinching her. They were shouting and screaming at her, informing her that they didn't believe her story, ordering her to tell them the truth. They used this as a strategy to force her to tell the truth, which worked. Mary agreed that she shot Steven out of anger. After Mary was arrested and charged with murder, the detectives went ahead to review the tape and all they could hear was static feedback noise. Her confession was inaudible. This tape was the biggest piece of proof they had to end this case, and it was destroyed and they had no backup recording. All they had at that particular time was their words against hers. Luckily, this tape wasn't the only source of proof that they were in possession. They also had evidence that the gun was loaded that same night, although Mary claimed that she had no idea it was loaded. There was cooking grease on the magazine, and all over the side of the gun, which makes sense bearing in mind that she was cooking a London broil that same night, which was very greasy. This was the same food that was thrown all over the floor. They also discovered that the police had been called to their home 5 times within the last year. 2 of them proved to be for domestic disagreements. At this point, the investigators decided to interrogate Steven's 3 closest friends, and all of them were firm about Mary intentionally shooting him. They portrayed Steven and Mary's relationship to be very toxic. They claimed that Mary was possessive, jealous, very verbally abusive, and mentally unstable. They also claimed that Mary and Steven were constantly fighting and shouting at each other. Whenever Steven would leave the house, Mary would repeatedly blow up his phone with text messages and phone calls to the point where he'd just block her. A co-worker was also questioned, and he claimed that he was in the car with Steven on their way to a job, and she called him 30 times before they were even to get to their first job of the day. Steven's friends claimed that he was scared of Mary because she had already pulled a gun out on him 3 to 4 times. They mentioned that he never reported her to the authorities because at that time he loved her and he didn't want her to get into trouble. Nevertheless, in July 2018, Steven was eventually ready to leave Mary. He planned to move out and leave to a different location and not inform her that he was relocating, since he was afraid of her reaction if she found out. On July 30th, 2 days before Steven was shot, the two exchanged sweet text messages which read, "Good morning, beautiful. Don't forget," to which Mary responded, "Thank you. Have a great day," to which Steven responded, "You too. Love you." This was how their relationship was for a long time. Just very hot and cold. The next day, the two of them got into a fight, which made Steven leave and stay at a friend's house. He told his friend he was simply running from Satan. The following day is when Mary made a London broil as an apology for the fight they had and was hoping Steven would turn up for dinner, eat the nice meal together, talk things out and move along as they had always done. Nonetheless, he never showed up at home this time round, which upset Mary very much. When asked this by the police, she claimed she was simply angered because she had prepared this nice meal and he failed to return home and enjoy it with her. Mary, as usual, blew up his phone with phone calls and messages and went ahead to call Steven's mother to find out if he was there. Jennifer, Steven's mother, told her that he was at his friend Thomas's house. Mary got into her car and drove to Thomas's place. Steven and Thomas had already left the home and were just driving around in the truck, and Mary noticed the truck and started following them. She drove too close to them, rolled down the window, and started screaming, "Are you coming home now?" Thomas mentioned that Steven felt kind of defeated at that point and told her he would be coming home. 2 hours later, Steven was shot. It was presumed that Steven went home to wrap up things with Mary once and for all, and that is what triggered the fight that turned fatal. Mary was charged with murder, felonious assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. She was offered a plea deal of life in prison with a chance of parole if pleaded guilty. Nevertheless, she declined to take the deal and took the case to trial, where she pleaded not guilty due to having to shoot Steven in self-defense. She was represented by a public defender who informed the jury that Mary was even afraid of Steven because of his history of abuse, and there was actual proof of this abuse which all came out during her trial. The prosecutors used the evidence involving the grease of the gun since they didn't have the confession tape anymore. They also brought in Steven's friends as witnesses. On Mary's side, what helped her greatly was for her taking the stand to tell the jury what happened to her throughout her relationship with Steven. She alleged that Steven had a very commanding, controlling, and risky side of his character that no one else knew about. She claimed to have experienced verbal abuse, physical abuse and that he had raped her on 2 separate occasions. She claimed he wanted to know what she was doing, where she was, who she was with at all times, with whom she was spending money, and what she was eating. She claimed that he pushed her to the brink of madness and he was financially abusive as well. She claimed that on one occasion he kicked her very hard, which caused her to fall off the bed and bang her head. She mentioned that she didn't call the police because she was afraid that she would blame herself, feeling like she had pushed him that far to where he would abuse her. There was another proof for her side, which was all the text messages that were retrieved between her and Steven, where Steven was sending her very indecent and alarming messages, endangering her. They were messages from the previous year and were 63 pages of these texts exposing Steven verbally attacking her. The messages were so indecent such that the detectives haven't revealed many of them. One message he sent her was when he went out fishing with friends. He sent her a picture of himself holding a dead fish and said, "This is you, bitch." And another saying, "I'm gonna wreck you for wrecking me." This was linked to the fact that she cheated on him one time and he lost it. Steven sent another text message saying, "The more shit you talk, the more you're gonna get punished when I get home." The court asked her what he meant by punishing her. She claimed he would come home screaming at her, physically assault her by smacking her, punching her, and beating her in general. Mary sat on the stand in tears when telling the story and said that if she tried to stand up for herself and protect herself, he would say things like, "Don't hit me because if you hit me, then I'm just gonna hit you 2 times harder." She also claimed Steven had a red room where he could kind of sexually abuse her, doing things that she didn't like to inflict pain onto her. Steven had sexually assaulted her on 2 occasions. One is when they had just gotten back from their vacation to Disney World and began having intercourse. It became too hostile and Mary wasn't enjoying it and told him to stop, but instead, he told her, "I bought you all these things at Disney World, so now you're going to give me what I deserve." She said she was the one who broke up with him and he was the one who got mad and started attacking her, and that's when she grabbed the gun to defend herself and she accidentally shot him. She said that her last words to him were, "Get the f*** out of my house," and then he pounced himself at her and that's when she shot him. Forensic evidence proved otherwise, that he never got up, and he never moved. He was sitting on the corner of his mattress and when she shot him he fell backward. The police, Steven's family, and his friends didn't believe all this because Mary was the one who was following the truck demanding him to come back. She is the one who tried to cook an amazing meal which she claimed was to apologize for the fight and hoped things would continue forward as usual. His family and friends knew Steven as amazing, friendly, and not this hostile beast Mary was painting him to be. His mother Jennifer claimed that she never knew he was talking to her the way he was and wasn't proud of him doing that to a woman. Steven's friends kept saying that Mary was the physically abusive one, that she could hit and punch him all the time, and that they had never seen him raise a hand to her before. Nonetheless, the defense argued that this friend never actually saw any of this abuse occurring and could have been happening behind closed doors. The defense also claimed that Steven had a drug and alcohol addiction which led to his brutal explosion. The prosecution also came up with another text message that Steven had sent to Mary saying, "I know you've pointed a gun at me multiple times already, but last time scared the shit out of me." To which Mary claimed that this was about her shooting herself, but not shooting him. She had always threatened to shoot herself, but not him, and the family and friends thought that Steven stayed in the relationship for long because he feared she would commit suicide if he left her. Prosecutors had claimed that Mary had changed the story at least 10 times from the moment she was interrogated. Finally, Mary Catherine Higdon was acquitted of all her charges after being found not guilty. Everyone who was part of Stephen's life, including the court, was in total shock when they came to find out the jury's decision. They acknowledged that they all indeed were convinced that Mary intentionally shot and killed Stephen, but there was not enough proof to attest as to why she shot him. They couldn't establish it was indeed murder or self-defense. They were unable to ascertain whether all accusations labeled against Stephen were true or false, and if all accusations labeled against Mary were also true or false as well. Therefore, Mary Catherine Higdon was finally set free. Stephen's life was a testament to the belief that with dedication and unwavering resolve, one can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. His achievements serve as a source of inspiration for all those who face their battles in life. Stephen's impact on his community and those who knew him is immeasurable. He leaves behind a legacy of determination and resilience that will continue to inspire others to pursue their dreams, no matter the odds. In the end, Steven Andrew Freeman's legacy is a reminder that the human spirit can soar even in the face of adversity. May his story inspire us all to face life's challenges with courage and determination, knowing that with perseverance, we can achieve remarkable things.